Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna, welcome. We have the channel Bhagavad-gita, here it is, because actually here it is, Bhagavad-gita as it is. We are reading this edition of Bhagavad-gita with translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My name is Labangalatika. We are in the third chapter, Karma Yoga, and I'm reading text 32. Ye tvetad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvagyana vimudhangstan vidhinashtan achetasaha. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Yeah, we're coming back to this envy. Envy is the quality that destroys everything. All other qualities, activities, things that are part of us can be used in a spiritual sense. Envy is like the negation. Envy means it's the opposite of love, it's the opposite of caring, it's the opposite of everything spiritual. And it's very good to be able to see it in ourselves, to see it in our motivations, to see it in our when it comes up. Because when we see it, we can decide, is this something I want to keep? And no, it isn't. It's not something we want to keep. Purport. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the Personality of Godhead, due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. Yes, so a vacant heart, it's not a very good situation. It's not a good basis for anything. Everything we do, everything we see, everything that happens in this world, it starts somewhere. It starts in a desire. It starts in a conception in somebody's mind or in somebody's heart. Because we are living entities, we are. We have the ability, or it's our nature, to be thinking, feeling, and willing. We see something, we want something, so on. Envy eradicates the basis for all of that. Our spiritual nature is to have a loving relationship that we exchange with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that love is expanding to include that which is of Krishna, which is Krishna's, which actually means all the other living entities. So, of course, we are small, we are limited, we cannot be best friends of everybody, we can maybe not care and offer something to everybody, but at least we can avoid being actively envious. We can avoid, if we see that, if we sense that impulse to be happy because of somebody else's suffering, we know that there is something wrong with us. And these teachings that Krishna is giving us, we had a couple of verses back, Prabhupada is saying we should follow Krishna's instruction with military precision, and we get this image of people just lined up doing Bhagavad-gita, doing Krishna things. The point is not that Krishna needs us lined up as soldiers or as robots or anything like that. It is just that it's very helpful for us. Krishna has given us this knowledge, he has put it together, he has sent it out in this world to be helpful for us. Also, of course, this is at the heart of spiritual life. We are spirit souls, we have a relationship to Krishna in love. And when you love someone, you want to please them, you want to make them happy. But if they don't let you know what they like, how can you make them happy? I used to be, when I was a young, new Hare Krishna devotee, we have our Sunday feast. Every Sunday in most of our temples all over the world, there will be a grand vegetarian feast served to guests and everyone who comes. And at that time I was standing and serving those who came by, and I'd say, what would you like? And they'd be like, whatever you have. And I'm like, how can I serve them if I don't know what they like? You know, if you have a small child who doesn't have an appetite, or you have somebody who has been working hard and is very hungry, it's easy for me to serve a little bit or a lot. But if I don't know what they like, it's impossible. It's impossible to please them with that. So I decided at that point to, whenever somebody asks me what I like, I will let them know, because it will help them. And Krishna is like that. He lets us know what he likes. So on all the different levels, when we come to the Vedas out of duty because we want to achieve a better material situation for ourselves, Krishna gives us injunctions. When we come to the level where we want to find meaning in life, Krishna gives us those instructions. When we want to know how to connect to Krishna in devotional service, in bhakti yoga, Krishna gives us those instructions. And when we follow them with faith and love, it's not just that, like, you go to work and they pay you to do that one specific thing, and if you do something else, they will not pay you. It's not a loving exchange as such. But with Krishna, it is out of love. We want to do something for him out of love, and he wants to give us the tools for that. He wants to give us the ability for that. And that is not just, if you want to build a nice altar for Krishna, he will give us a hammer. But these tools are of a more subtle nature, how we can best be growing our best potential to be our full selves. So we have access to these instructions. We have access to try to put them into practice. And in the previous verse we heard a person who appreciates that, who looks to Krishna and his instructions with faith and appreciation, even if he's unable to actually do it, to perform them, he will reach that level of perfection also, because Krishna is not stingy with his benedictions in that way. But a person who out of envy disregards these teachings and don't follow them, he's bereft of knowledge, and he doesn't have access to that spiritual growth, to that perfection. So that ignorance will stay. He will not be able to know the Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will not know his own spiritual self. So we can see this as a punishment. We can see this as a reaction. We can also see it as Krishna is respecting our independence, our desire to be separated from him. But either way, the result is the same. If we cannot embrace Krishna's instructions with that appreciation and faith, they won't do anything for us. We may not be able to do very much, we may not be able to follow everything, but we are certainly able to appreciate the fact that Krishna has gone out of his way to give us access to himself and to our own true self in this way. I think I will read one more verse, text 33. Sadrishang chestate shvasya prakriter jnanavanapi prakriting yanti bhutani nigraha kinkarishyati. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Purport. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7:14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. Yes. So to access these verses, we need to be a little serious. Prabhupada used to say that to make spiritual advancement, you have to be serious and sincere. If we're just reading Bhagavad-gita because it's poetic and interesting and cultural, and we come to these points where Krishna asks us to be obedient, I mean, what do we do with that? But Krishna is not just wanting us to, get in line, but he wants to benefit us by giving us a process that works. So here also that this is stated, and it's very good, it's very balanced. We have a certain nature, we cannot change it. We can see that. This has been shown so many stories historically and so on. Somebody has a certain nature and you want to artificially force them to be something else. Like we speak about our Varnashram, that we have the Varnas, we have Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. Brahmanas are supposed to be the head of society, and Kshatriyas are supposed to be the arms of society for protection. Vaishyas, the belly that gives us everything we need in terms of food, etc. And the Shudras, they do everything else. They serve the other classes with their work. And that is what we see. We look to society. It may not be organized and structured like a Varnashram, but we see these groups. And they don't always, for sometimes, of course, it's due to a lack of privilege. A person who would have a good capacity for studies and so on is unable to do it. A person who would have a good nature for growing food doesn't have access to land and so on. But in general, these natures, they shine through, they come through. And Krishna is not saying give them up and become something else. He says work according to your nature, but do it according to Krishna's instructions and in the consciousness of Krishna, of the spiritual service towards Krishna. Because sometimes we see that when I was young and we all joined the movement, thing to do and the thing to be was a monk. And those who got married, sometimes the monks would kind of not feel that respect because they felt what we're doing, this is the best thing. Of course, now I look around at all those monks and mostly all of them are married and they're doing very well. So both positions are good. It's not that one position is better and the other is worse. But if you go against your own nature to try to act as something you are not, it's not going to work. So therefore Krishna consciousness is all about dovetailing, channeling, canalizing, I don't know, my English sometimes. But the natures we have, the capacities we have, the potential we have, we line it up with Krishna's service, and this works very nicely. Then we are not going to have work against our own nature and spend a lot of energy on that and maybe ultimately not manage to hold on to that. But within that which is our nature, that's where we find our duty. And within that, if we connect it to Krishna consciousness and if we add Krishna consciousness to it, we can find a very steady platform where we can stay there for our whole life. We can be satisfied, we can have everything we need. and we can please Krishna with our service and make spiritual advancement. So these verses are very good, and we need to study them, because the tendency is to become either too lenient and too lazy and too lethargic with our spiritual life, or to be too driven based on pride or desire for recognition or low self-esteem on something that ultimately isn't very Krishna conscious. So Krishna asks for this. He asks us to follow his instructions, to enter into that with our full heart, with all our enthusiasm, but not in an artificial way. So it takes a little intelligence to organize society like that, but at least on our own individual level, we can try to understand these very different instructions, how they create a harmonious, practical whole, so we can have a harmonious, practical life in which we can develop our Krishna consciousness and become very satisfied in our hearts. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna